A very good morning to all dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, participants in this conference, and award winners. It is indeed an important day for us that we are meeting in the shadow of a recent climate conference. And we are preparing ourselves now as a leader of COP20, G20, so to say, another group of 20, I would say. This is a stellar moment for a developing country like India to be involved at a global level in an effort to develop the world and develop the world in a sustainable manner. The Honorable Minister just addressed us, gave us a few indicators of India's vast progress in the new and renewable sphere and our resolve to move in that direction. Ladies and gentlemen, you represent the oil and gas sector, essentially. Those of us who have been involved with this sector know how crucial it is to the economy of any country, whether in transport, right from aviation to land transport, sea transport, and across value chain of materials that we use from petrochemicals. A transformation in this sector necessarily involves a transition time. We've been using hydrocarbons for accelerating growth. But hydrocarbon use has largely been confined to, in a large measure, to the developed world. Or maybe because they had these resources and harnessed them across the world, bought assets across the world, that they gained wealth. They're the source of wealth. The time has now come for energy transition. But energy transition is not going to come immediately. It has to go through a process of testing the substitute fuels. There is sun, there is wind, the elements of nature that people in this country particularly are quite familiar with. We were termed as underdeveloped because we were not very high in our fossil fuel use. Just as we started developing and harnessing these sources of energy, we were told to move to the other world because pollution, as you all know, threatens global warming, too much carbon. But I was just speaking to the Honorable Minister. Right from the early 90s, I've been working on global warming. And for me, the cardinal principle is that if the world is one, the citizen is one, and we have to be guided by the mantra of per capita emissions. Yes, we must reduce them, but the world has to move together. In this race of an energy transition, it should not happen that we are left behind again. And the future lies in galvanizing our own resources, not only material resources, but human resources also. The various supply chains. The subject of this event is really digitization. Now, where does digitization lead you? It leads you to more efficiency, faster delivery, faster monitoring. In all, I think a more granular control on the whole process, not only of exploration, production, but its distribution and commercial assessment of the whole exercise. All these operations are meant to bring efficiency, lesser pollution. You know, when you have experts from the oil industry here, you know what 3D techniques have done for you. You don't have to waste time, energy, resources, fuel, as you did in the past, probably spudding dead wells. Today, you know what to target and how to reach there fast. At the same time, you know where your products are going. Meanwhile, in the refineries, you know what is happening where, automated refineries. The whole process doesn't require more than 4 or 5 individuals, probably. This process will certainly, I think, herald new efficiencies in the sector. And I think the strength of this sector is basically the strength of the chemical engineer. To utilize a commodity to its last grain, find a useful purpose for it, extract an economic value out of it. Now, these very techniques, I would say, again, the age of the chemical engineer, to engineer new molecules, to break the old molecules into new fuels and new materials. How to sequester carbon, how to sequester it in utilization, not really push your emissions under the ground, because that is sweeping your emissions under the target, under the carpet. Now that kind of a exercise, I think, is something which a chemical engineer is most suited to give. Hydrogen, which is being touted as the fuel of the future, is not available for the asking. It's too light, it runs away from us. We know how to, as an engineer, we know how to capture it from various sources. We know how to transport it. And this very infrastructure of the gas pipelines that we have created across the world, this very infrastructure should come in useful for carrying the new materials. Of course, maybe in some cases with some modifications. So the time for our chemical engineers and chemical technologists is to turn your attention to how to reach the new fuels, how to make countries like India, which are developing, find the appropriate jobs, train people in the right direction, in the right skills. And thereafter, as we move forward, you need storage, because everything they say is going to turn by and large electrical or through hydrogen as a fuel. It's not a time for despair for the sector. Besides playing a support role for a while, being more efficient in your operations, which will reduce emissions, this transition will take, in my personal view, at least 3 decades. Countries may say that they'll be net zero by 2050. But I feel that 2070, the target given by India, seems to be more realistic. There again is a role for our corporate world. How much are we spending on research and development and deployment? Unfortunately, the record in countries like India is not very good. And I have said so at another forum 2 days back, and I say it again, that the surpluses that are coming in these so-called windfall times for the oil and gas sector should be utilized for expanding your horizons into the new technologies. The engineers are the same. Reorient your processes. Reorient your plans. Governments can tax other things, but these are sectors which need to move forward very fast. And I think we should ensure that those who spend, those corporates who spend on the right kind of research and development and deployment should be given tax breaks, investment breaks, because this opportunity should not be seized by other countries other than those particularly who need employment, who need to bring prosperity to their people, who need to bring resources to your people. It's an opportunity, I think, which we must seize, and the government has been taking steps in the right direction. But storage is an area, I think, where our engineers and technologists can work hard on materials and see that India catches lost ground, developing countries catch lost ground. We have to collaborate with the developed world also to find cheaper alternatives. The last war, which is still ongoing in Europe, has even brought developed countries to their knees in that part of the world. The rise of fossil fuel prices has been extremely debilitating in many homes in Europe. Unfortunately, when an assessment is made, my own feeling is that poverty and deprivation would have increased in this period. All transitions are painful, but we've got to see that this transition provides an opportunity for us to realign ourselves, particularly in the developing world, and move ahead in a new race. We have the intellectual ability. We need to harness our plans and our financial resources in the right direction. And hopefully, global technology and financial assistance will not only be directed towards damage mitigation, but building a new future with new technology and cheap capital. It's a stark reality that I was reading in the World Energy Outlook of the International Energy Agency, that the cost of capital in the developing world is much higher than the cost of capital in the developed world, which is a paradox. It's need to be the other way around. These are missions that we have on the oil spill front. This conference and event is an indicator that we not only believe in producing the commodity and marketing it, but also ensuring that in its exploration, production, and transportation, wherever there is a chemical or harmful spill, it is acted upon promptly and the environment is made safe for those who may not be able to access televisions, or those species who can't even speak in the seas, trees, plant life, marine life. It is an extremely important duty of nature that we must ensure that whatever operations we conduct in a safe manner. Oil spill is just one of them. When you move to new technologies, the disposal, the discarding of what you don't need, that will require the same degree of vigilance and attention that some of the professionals here are engaged in. We have to ensure that the life cycle of any product is waste-free. It's a culture that was there in the old world, in our own families. Nothing was really discarded till it really needed to be discarded. This use and throw philosophy, unfortunately, or not in my backyard, you shove it into a neighboring backyard, has produced mountains of hazardous waste around many cities. They are equally harmful like oil spills or other spills. It's my earnest wish that all the professionals who are engaged in these two sectors that we are particularly talking about today utilize their talents, their energies to ensure that in the energy transition also they will play a lead role. They have the technology and they have the drive and they have the excellence. Thank you very much, sir.